A woman who behaves aggressively, who acts rudely and disrespectfully toward her husband, always has a rational explanation for her behavior. She says, "Yes, I lost control of my emotions. I may have even acted inappropriately, but it's your fault. You don't listen to me. You don't understand me." And if the man tries to explain to her why she's behaving this way, the woman will respond again with, "It's your fault. You're the one making me act like this." In essence, the woman frames the issue in such a way that her rudeness, irrationality, and lack of self-control are not just acceptable and justifiable, but are proof that it's all his fault, that in reality, he is the one to blame. She implies, "If I'm having a meltdown and behaving rudely, then you are definitely at fault. Look at me. Look at my emotions. Look at what you've done to me." This is how she frames the issue. It's akin to walking up to a random person on the street, punching them in the face, and then saying, "Now do you see how much you irritate me? It's your fault I can't control myself. Don't walk around here acting so arrogant again. Reflect on your behavior, because you just made a good person express aggression toward you." Of course, this is an absurd justification for inappropriate behavior, but sadly, a significant number of men believe this narrative. This is because, in the past, their wife didn't behave this way. When you first met, her behavior wasn't rude or disrespectful. On the contrary, everything seemed fine, and now you don't understand what has changed, what influenced her. The woman begins to convince you that your actions influenced her, that you ruined everything. She suggests, "A good man wouldn't cause a woman to become like this." Those who have already watched all my videos and grown a bit wiser might say that the man disrupted the balance of scales, gave up his position, and that's why the woman began to behave irrationally. But no, that's not the case. An aggressive woman is a distinct type. Such a woman, in the heat of a conflict, will hit you where it hurts the most. She will try to cause you maximum harm. Everyone has their weak points. And when you're in conflict with such a woman and she insults and demeans you, it might not bother you much. You might think, "Let her curse and shout," but she shifts to unfair methods of fighting and metaphorically hits you below the belt. There are certain taboo topics, things that simply shouldn't be mentioned, but she will bring them up anyway. Her goal is to inflict mental pain through words, and you're left wondering, why does she hate me so much? You might notice that this type of woman makes no effort to control herself during conflicts. The truth is, the problem isn't in you. The problem lies in the physiology of her nervous system. It's worth noting that when a person has a mental disorder, it doesn't mean they're visibly foaming at the mouth or exhibiting obvious signs. Detecting a damaged nervous system with the naked eye is nearly impossible. In fact, I'll tell you more. Such a person's life is divided into two phases. There's the remission phase, where they behave like an ordinary average person. This phase can last for several years. Then there's the exacerbation phase. We're used to simplified definitions, where someone is either 100% healthy or 100% sick, especially when it comes to physical illnesses like colds or the flu. But when it comes to mental disorders, it's far more complex. You might live with a person for years without ever suspecting they have a mental health issue. This is why, when a woman with a mental disorder begins a relationship, especially when she's in love, she is almost always in the remission phase. This phase often lasts for several years, and you wouldn't even think that she has a defective nervous system. The symptoms are almost non-existent, and what little symptoms there are, as I mentioned, are invisible to the untrained eye. Even if you do notice something, it will seem so insignificant that you'll rationalize it as a unique or exclusive trait of hers. As we know, over time, dopamine levels in a relationship begin to decrease, and other factors come into play. For example, when you have a child, sleepless nights, stress, and other irritating life factors start to appear. Suddenly, you notice that the woman changes radically. She transitions into an exacerbation phase, and her defective psyche begins to show cracks. In general, most men are very soft-hearted when it comes to this topic. As a result, they not only fail to notice these psychological defects at an early stage, but even when the woman is in the exacerbation phase, they blame themselves, thinking, I must have caused this. In reality, the way most men choose a partner can be compared to how they choose a car. You look at the car, it's shiny, you drive it a bit. It runs smoothly, makes no noise, the air conditioning works. You think, it's a good car, I'll buy it. This is roughly the extent of the diagnostics men perform when choosing a woman they plan to have children with and spend the rest of their life with. You may be surprised when, after a few years, some defect becomes apparent in the woman. But I'm not surprised. Let me explain. The majority of people, regardless of gender, have damaged psyches. The question is how damaged it is, what kind of damage it is, how dangerous it is, whether it can be fixed, and whether it's possible to live with it. This means that no amount of strong positioning or balance of scales can resolve a woman's aggression, irrationality, or rudeness, and even if it does, it will only be temporary. We must clearly understand that if a woman behaves irrationally, aggressively, insults you, or curses at you, it shouldn't just be attributed to typical rudeness or irrationality. In reality, these are symptoms caused by morphological changes in her nervous system. You simply happen to be the person in front of her at that moment, and that's why all her aggression is directed at you, not her friends, not her parents, but the person she has the closest emotional connection with. This is why she associates you directly with the unbearable state she experiences during the exacerbation phase of her disorder. Consequently, you are left with the illusion that an otherwise rational person is behaving irrationally. A woman may act appropriately with her friends, parents, or colleagues while behaving irrationally toward you. Why? Because in friendships and work, she is not as emotionally involved as she is with you. You might tell her, "What's wrong? Why are you so agitated? Nothing serious is happening. Everyone is healthy. Everyone is alive. What has put you in this state? Calm down." But the truth is, it's not something she's consciously doing. Her hormones are driving her behavior. She has no control over this process. Therefore, when a woman is in the exacerbation phase of her psychological disorder, trying to explain things to her or teach her logic is pointless. At that moment, the neural connections in her brain are wired in such a way that all the biochemistry of her stress is linked directly to you. This is a specific kind of projection, a woman linking her emotional state to her partner. In the beginning of the relationship, during the remission phase, she receives a generous dose of dopamine from you and tells you that you are the best. And at that moment, she isn't lying. She truly feels that way in the moment. At the same time, it's possible that you hadn't done anything particularly special for her at that point. Later, however, when she enters the exacerbation phase and you begin to genuinely blame yourself for her state, trying your best to fix the situation, it doesn't help. Why? Because in her mind at that stage, you are her enemy, and everything is your fault. It's important to understand that when a woman says you irritate her, or that she feels physically and emotionally bad around you, she's also telling the truth. But it's possible that you aren't to blame at all for those feelings. Unfortunately, during the exacerbation phase, she won't be able to see this. Some classic phrases from women in this phase include, "I hate you," "You irritate me," "You drive me crazy," "I regret ever meeting you," "I wasted the best years of my life on you," "I want to start a new life." She might also accuse you of causing her severe and irreparable psychological harm, and so on. During the development of your relationship, everything seemed fine. She liked you. There were positive emotions. You started dating, positive emotions. You enjoyed each other in the early stages of the relationship, positive emotions. You moved in together, a positive event, positive emotions. You got a dog or a cat, went on vacations, positive events, positive emotions. You had a child, positive emotions. But despite all these positive experiences, when the exacerbation phase arrives, her perception shifts, and her emotional state becomes tied to this new narrative of blame and negativity. But an inevitable moment arrives in life, when there are no more new events or emotions, everything has settled. And in most cases, this is where the problems begin. In other words, if everything in your relationship has seemingly gone well, positive emotions, milestones achieved, and stability reached, but the woman starts regularly getting angry over trivial matters and initiating conflicts over insignificant reasons, then this describes your situation. This is what's happening to you now. I want to emphasize once again, don't be misled by the ideal start of the relationship, even if it lasted for several years. That was the remission phase. Such a woman inevitably leaves the relationship sooner or later. She needs a reset, a way to transition from the exacerbation phase back to the remission phase. To achieve this, she needs to create a new plan for her future in her mind. She may change her image, her hairstyle, and revive herself like a phoenix. She will also seek a new and seemingly perfect man who she believes will make her happy. The saddest part is that the scenario of her new relationship will be no different from the previous one. It will be exactly the same, a one-to-one repetition. You'll see it yourself. An aggressive woman can easily switch to another man. As we've already established, her stress biochemistry is linked to you. When she was grumpy, threw tantrums, or silently accumulated negativity toward you in the beginning, new synapses were forming in her brain that created negative associations, emotions, and feelings connected to you. You started to irritate her. The sight of you, your voice, your actions, everything began to evoke disgust. However, any new man doesn't evoke such feelings. She can fall in love with him and enter a remission phase, where everything will seem fine again for a while. Now you understand why no attempts at constructive dialogue or agreements with an aggressive woman ever worked. This problem cannot be solved through dialogue. To resolve it, the negative neural connections in her brain associated with you must be dismantled, or at least deactivated. Doing this while staying in the relationship is almost impossible. This is because almost any form of contact with you activates those neural connections. You try to bring her positivity, but it only activates her negativity. That's why, in most cases, separation is the only way this can be addressed. You need to remember these 5 rules. First, if a woman can express aggression, it means her psyche is defective. An aggressive woman explains the situation by claiming she can respect a man, just not you, because you don't deserve it. This is a lie. It's impossible to respect one man and spit in the face of another. An aggressive woman simply retransmits her biochemistry onto the man. When there's infatuation and dopamine, she respects you. When it's gone, she claims you no longer deserve respect. Second, you cannot force an aggressive woman to respect you through provocations, intimidation, bluffing, or jealousy. If you hadn't tolerated her rude and disrespectful behavior earlier, yes, that might have prolonged the remission phase. But now it's too late. Besides, most men don't know how to properly react to a woman's rude behavior. They either tolerate it or respond with shouting and fighting. Third, attempts at serious conversations won't work. Saying, "I'm your husband and I won't tolerate this," is futile. If after listening to this you still think that your words can override her physiology, then you're simply soft-hearted and naive. It's important to understand that even if an aggressive woman sincerely wanted to stop the destructive behavior, she physically cannot halt the process of relationship breakdown. You're not a doctor, and you're not a psychiatrist, so stop tormenting her and yourself. Fourth, men often expect women to realize they're being destructive, reflect on it, and fix everything. Yes, she might realize it, but only later, when she's reset and re-entered the remission phase. Right now, in the exacerbation phase, she cannot understand anything. Fifth, the biggest fantasy men have is that things will turn around at the very last moment. You think that just before breaking up, she'll realize she doesn't want the relationship to end, and like in the movies, she'll suddenly cry sweetly and say she loves you. But soon, you'll realize life isn't a Hollywood movie. Real life works differently. In conclusion, if a woman has a damaged psyche, then in the exacerbation phase, anything is possible from her. Many factors can trigger this phase: having a child, sleepless nights, work stress, or even real stability in the relationship that doesn't align with her emotional homeostasis. To support my thesis, let me say this. Think back. She is now irritated by things that didn't bother her before. She no longer finds joy in what used to make her happy. She gets upset over things she wouldn't have even noticed in the past. This is why it's time to realize that her behavior isn't connected to the events happening in your relationship. The issues you're arguing about aren't the real cause. The reason lies in the changes in her nervous system. The reason is her transition into the exacerbation phase. Therefore, it's unnecessary to listen intently to everything she says or try to decode her words. Even she doesn't truly understand what's happening to her or why she's behaving this way. What conclusions can we draw from this video lecture? First, if a woman has a defect in her nervous system, you won't notice the pathology or symptoms immediately. It will only become apparent over time, and specifically within a romantic relationship, where she is fully emotionally invested. She might be a good and caring daughter who looks after her parents. She could be a great friend who helps those close to her. She might be an excellent employee. When you maintain a certain distance from such a person, you may find it comfortable and pleasant to be around them. Mental health issues don't necessarily mean that the person is bad. But within a romantic relationship, various types of challenges or misfortunes arise, or will arise. Not immediately, but over time. Similar situations occur even with women who are officially and clinically diagnosed with bipolar disorder. The same patterns emerge, nothing different. This is something you need to thoroughly understand. But how do men often think? They believe, I've been with her for 5 years, so I know her well. Are you sure you really know her? If something unexpected is happening now, something you didn't anticipate, it means you don't know her as well as you thought, and you certainly can't predict her behavior. Second conclusion. In most cases, all that negativity, dissatisfaction, and resentment stem primarily from her internal state. Your relationship helped her enter the remission phase, but you didn't realize that a countdown timer had started and that serious problems would eventually arise. You thought everything would remain good forever, but in reality, this outcome was predictable. If you had understood this topic better, you could have easily anticipated it. I understand what men hope for in such situations. Maybe she will realize what's happening, stop blaming me, and we can work together to solve this problem. I understand that this sounds positive, almost like a fairy tale. It would be great if the problem could be resolved that way. But unfortunately, that's not how it works, and your story is just another piece of evidence to support this. Third conclusion. Regarding new relationships and the ending with this type of woman. Her life seems to follow a black and white pattern: remission phase, exacerbation phase, remission phase, exacerbation phase, and so on. She always needs a reset, a fresh start. However, resetting and starting fresh within the same relationship where she entered the exacerbation phase is physically impossible for her. Therefore, sooner or later, she leaves the relationship. What does a woman claim as the reason for leaving? For some reason, people think she'll say, "I'm feeling bad, so I'm leaving." No, she will always have seemingly convincing arguments. However, the essence of the situation, the sequence of cause and effect upon which she builds her reasoning, and the actual reason for her behavior are entirely different things. Don't jump to premature conclusions. Watch all the videos on this channel because they are interconnected. Our online lectures will soon be available for purchase on our website. Stay tuned for more details, and don't miss the chance to take your knowledge and skills to the next level. Thank you for watching. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated with more valuable insights and tips. Also, make sure to follow us on our social media accounts linked in the description for exclusive updates, discussions, and content. See you in the next video.